Two Nintendo Switch games for the Monster Hunter series. Capcom, you are going to break my wallet. Let's go ahead and check them out. Hey everyone, Pinoy X here once again, back with another Monster Hunter video. So today, Capcom has announced two Monster Hunter games for the Nintendo Switch, Monster Hunter Rise, as well as Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin. Now I am just genuinely filled up with energy as of right now, especially with the announcement of Monster Hunter Rise. This game looks amazing and there is a lot of concept that they couldn't do in previous Monster Hunter games coming to life with Monster Hunter Rise. Now, one of the key things I want to quickly talk about here is some of the content that they spoke about regarding what you can actually use in terms of equipment, weapons, parties, etc. One of the main things that we all have in most Monster Hunter games is the Palico system. However, in Monster Hunter Rise, it seems like they've decided to go ahead and add a canine version of this particular system, which is the Palamute system. Now, the Palamute is basically your canine companion, and to me, this is just them recreating the hunting hound concept and making it into a reality without being restricted in terms of the weapon that you use. And you can actually have a combination of either two Palicos, two Palamutes, I'm assuming, or a combination of both. And for the most part, I am just genuinely excited to see what they have in store for us regarding this particular system. Now, in terms of any other gameplay elements, we have the wire bug element as well, which is essentially like your clutch claw, but you can use it anywhere. You can literally just throw out the fly and you can latch onto it, and then you can do some aerial attacks, which is super ridiculous in terms of gameplay elements that it can actually open up for you. Alongside this, you also have a lot of verticality in terms of movement in comparison to previous Monster Hunter games, more so than Monster Hunter World or Iceborne, because you can basically use the platform, or rather the wired bug, as a means of running into, let's say, mountains and whatnot and gain some new elevations. Now, finally, it's not gonna be a Monster Hunter game if we don't talk about the monsters. Now, I just can't remember the names of the monsters from the top of my head, but they all look super amazing. Now, in terms of what I can see, they are keeping the element of turf wars in terms of monsters fighting one another, but it seems like they're expanding upon that just a little bit more in comparison to what they did with Monster Hunter World. So they're actually doing something that's a little bit more cinematic by comparison to what we see in Monster Hunter World as of right now in terms of the monster versus monster fights. I genuinely cannot wait to see what they have in store for us with Monster Hunter Rise coming up this March for the Nintendo Switch. I'll be doing more videos on it along the way, speaking about some of the different elements that they've announced on it, but for the time being, that's all the information that we have regarding Monster Hunter Rise. Let's move on now to the next game that they've announced, which is Monster Hunter Stories 2. Now, for Monster Hunter Stories 2, for those of you who have played the original game, this is basically a turn-based combat RPG, meaning that you're not necessarily going to be fighting monsters in the same manner as the mainline games. That's more to do with Monster Hunter Rise at this point. Having said this, however, this is still an amazing announcement, and Monster Hunter Stories is an amazing game. One of the key things that they mostly focus on with Monster Hunter Stories 2 is the story behind the actual game. They're focusing on the narrative here, where the Rathalos are actually dwindling in numbers and they don't exactly know the reason why. And I kind of like that because the Rathalos has been a staple of the entire Monster Hunter series, and all of a sudden, they could be facing extinction in Monster Hunter Stories 2. That is actually quite a bold move in terms of storyline for the Monster Hunter series, in my opinion, especially for their poster boy monster. Now, with all of that being said, they didn't really show any gameplay for Monster Hunter Stories 2 at this moment in time, but we should get more information on it during the Tokyo Game Show coming up next week. With all of that being said though, I still cannot wait for this game, much like that of Monster Hunter Rise, and I can't wait to see the exact release date for this particular title. Hopefully, they will give us more information on the gameplay in terms of any changes in element between the original Monster Hunter stories going up into Monster Hunter Stories 2, so that we have a better idea as to what exactly we need to know about in terms of gameplay when it comes to this particular title. And that's pretty much all there is to it at this moment in time with Monster Hunter Stories 2. 2 because they mostly focus on gameplay for the Monster Hunter Rise title. And that is pretty much it for this video, taking a look at the 2 new upcoming Monster Hunter games for the Nintendo Switch in 2021. If you want more information on these games, I'll put a link in the description below for both the website for the Monster Hunter games as well as the Nintendo Direct that was done by Capcom in order to give you more information on both of these games. Now with all of that being said, what do you think about Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2 for the Nintendo Switch? Let us know in the comments below your personal opinion on these 2 upcoming Monster Hunter titles for the Nintendo Switch. And with all of that being said, if you enjoyed these videos, please consider leaving a like on the video itself and subscribing to the channel as well as hitting that bell icon so you can go ahead and catch up on any future Monster Hunter content that I might be doing or any other games that I might be playing in future. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Onward and upward.